Hey, it's Oliver Bruce and welcome to the Unlock, previously known as Success is in the Mind. I'm a UK entrepreneur, angel investor and neurodivergent founder, and I recently exited my first business, which I scaled from my university halls into a multi-million-dollar agency with no backing, no funding, just grit, mistakes and determination. I want to pass on some of the lessons that I've learned, the barriers that I had to overcome and the challenges that I'm still coming up against today. This podcast doesn't grow by itself, it grows with you. If you could possibly share this with friends, family, colleagues, anybody you're in business with, somebody that you think might find this useful, I would be greatly appreciative. Anyway, let's get into it. So I'm asked often by entrepreneurs, founders, businesses, how do you produce volume content that actually cuts through without just spamming people on social media, right? And we all know in the world that we're moving into that actually volume content is so important. The algorithm favors volume content, but it has to be actually engaging, has to actually maintain somebody's attention, and you can't just broad brushstroke it. So very simply put, content is king and distribution is the kingdom. We know that, but how do we actually produce volume content that cuts through? And when do we need to do more and when do we need to do less? Well, hopefully in this short demonstration, we're going to be able to walk through how to go from producing no content to producing content that actually works for your audience or for your business. So very simply put, it's all about versioning, understanding a narrative and then deploying it to an audience that you think will find it interesting, right? So very simply, as an analogy, the podcast that we produce, The Unlock, that's an hour's recording session. Off the back of that, we'll have one long form video, we'll have a long form piece of audio that we'll be able to deploy. We'll also get 50 shorts off the back of it. We'll also have some little longer form videos that we'll be able to cut out of it. So from an hour's session, we're getting 100 pieces of content, give or take, that we'll be able to deploy across different channels. So you don't have to sit down and record 100 pieces of content from day one. You can use your time wisely. So let's just walk that through. So when looking at different channels, obviously we have TikTok, which is all about short form content, all about volume. And actually, as it stands, the current algorithm quite likes to be fed with that. That's a really good testing bed when you're actually looking at how your content is sticking, how your content's being engaged with, and what you need to do more of. TikTok favors volume. You obviously have Meta / Instagram. So again, I guess with Meta and with Instagram, yes, you can put volume content out there. Yes, you can use a broad brushstroke, but typically the algorithm doesn't favor that. So you won't get the reach or the pull that you typically might get on TikTok. However, shorts and reels are super, super key. So we'll just double click into that in a minute. But one that people tend to forget, but is actually incredibly valuable, is YouTube. So YouTube, from a shorts perspective, a lot of our audience find our content specifically through our YouTube shorts. And again, that could be versions of the podcast, that could be versions of a long form how-to video, something like that. But again, when thinking about how you're bringing your audience into your funnel, typically most people will discover content, be it a podcast or otherwise, through some kind of short. YouTube don't mind having volume shorts. They don't mind you putting a lot of content out there. You'll be able to understand more so from a data perspective by using YouTube, specifically what's hitting with your audience, because that it has within the back end in YouTube Studio an audience section, a trending section, and a how they discovered you section, which is very different to the other platforms in terms of how that's broken out. So how do we take a long form piece of content and how do we break it out seamlessly? So if we were to take a long form video, and this could be anything from 20 minutes upwards, you record that piece of content based on what you understand your audience might want to engage with. You'll take them through that journey, and then what you'll do very simply after it's been edited is you'll put it into a platform called Opus Clips. So this is the easiest hack for anybody that is running out of time that wants to produce volume creative and volume content without the heavy lifting, right? So long form piece of content goes straight into Opus Clips. Opus Clips doesn't cost much, $30, $40 a month, and it will version all of your content, put hooks at the front, put subtitles in it. You can build out templates so then you can create 30, 40, 50, 60 videos simply by dragging and dropping a video or dragging and dropping some kind of URL in there. Once you've done that on Opus Clips, you'll then be able to schedule. So you can schedule directly your content within the channel to be able to be deployed on either YouTube, Meta, or TikTok. So The great thing about versioning long form content into short form content is that you can do a lot more with a lot less in terms of manpower. So you can actually produce quality content without having to record every single piece of content completely organically and completely natively, because you're just reusing something, you're sweating an asset that you've already produced. Now, once you've versioned on Opus and you've scheduled on Opus, and I promise they're not sponsoring this podcast, you then are able to write copy on Opus that is native to the channel. So what do I mean by that? Well, different types of copy work on different types of social media channels, right? So YouTube will have a different way of copywriting to how Instagram works, to how TikTok works, frankly, to even how LinkedIn works. And Opus will do all of the heavy lifting. So you've gone from long form into short form, into scheduled, into copywritten, into posted, with a few pushes of a button, very, very simply, very, very light touch. Then you're able to deploy high volume creative. However, when do you know that high volume creative should be dialed back? And when do you know that you need to do more? So, TikTok loves volume. I promise that's a heart. TikTok loves volume. The more you put out there, the more you'll understand with TikTok. It's a little bit of a different platform comparatively to the other channels, specifically because it was built to scrub through on your phone. So it was the first native social channel, unlike Instagram, where you would be sat on the toilet, scrubbing through, watching videos typically, right? We then saw that Instagram adopted that and introduced Reels. We then saw that YouTube adopted that and introduced Shorts. But TikTok is a really good testing platform to understand what Shorts or what Reels or what short form pieces of content specifically work. So what I would typically do is, after I've built out the volume creative, I would go hard on TikTok. Go really hard. Post, 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 post. You will then be able to see the data, you'll be able to see what's working, you'll be able to see what's actually hitting with your audience. And then once you've taken the 1, 2, or 3 pieces of content that are working on TikTok, you would then feed them straight into Instagram. Because Instagram doesn't like people to spam specifically. It doesn't like people to put content on there for the sake of putting content on there. It has to engage, it has to build an audience. They have to watch that piece of content for you to essentially climb the algorithm. Different to TikTok, but you take the winners from TikTok, you shove them into Instagram, and then you do that time and time again. So you do more. Now, the difference between TikTok and Instagram versus YouTube and YouTube Shorts is the fact that YouTube was built fundamentally to have long form video primarily before it then moved into Shorts, right? So yes, on YouTube you can upload tons of shorts, but you can also upload long form. Now, long form is typically discovered through uploading shorts, and typically YouTube will favor a channel if you are uploading shorts and then backing it up with long form video. Unlike TikTok, where it's typically just short form video, and unlike Instagram, where it's good quality, high volume short form video, it's really important to understand the differences between the two channels. But unlike TikTok and Instagram, YouTube not only does it have long form and short form, but it also has podcasts. And this is really important because when building out a piece of content, for instance, it could be a podcast, it could be a how-to video, it could be anything. Being able to extrapolate the audio from that and deploy that across different channels is super important for being able to engage and win new audiences. So YouTube for me is my favorite channel because not only do you have long, not only do you have short, but you've also got audio first, right? And that's something that TikTok and that's something that Instagram don't offer. So what I'm saying here is you can produce one long form piece of content, you can then deploy 50 short form pieces of content, but then you can have audio, you can have shorts, and you can have long form pieces of content within that. So those are 3 separate types of content that you can deploy on one single channel, engaging a wider audience than you would ever get on TikTok and that you would get on Instagram. Very, very different mediums, very, very different platforms, very, very different strategies. So it's not necessarily that the algorithm doesn't favor volume, It's that maybe the strategy that you're using to produce the volume is incorrect. It's not broad brushstroke. It's not put everything out there and hope for the best. It's go narrow, it's go deep, and it's go consistently, right? So we go onto TikTok to understand what's working. We go onto Instagram with the best videos that are working. We deploy that equally on YouTube with long form and audio, but we do it consistently. We do it daily. We do it weekly. We're posting consistent content on these channels because it's feeding the algorithm. These channels need content to be able to operate, right? And if they haven't got content, they can't operate. The people, the audience aren't sticking on these channels, so thus they haven't got a market. So it's really important to understand that you producing one piece of content, versioned 20, 30, 40, 50 times, is a big win, but understanding the channels that you deploy that content onto is critical so that you don't disengage an audience, shadow banned by Instagram, or just generally aren't getting the engagement that you deserve. But once we've uploaded it specifically to YouTube, how can we then pull out specific bits, like for instance copy, to make sure that we're able to either write blogs or be able to put actual transcripts, tags or descriptions into our YouTube content? Because YouTube fundamentally is basically a search engine, right? It gets served up on Google, it gets served up on LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude when people are looking for specific problems that they're wanting solved or specific products they're wanting to be purchased. So it's really simple, because I went through in an earlier video how we use Manus specifically to build out a creative workflow. You can use Manus really, really well to be able to build out specific copy or specific GEO strategies for your YouTube content. So if we were to take YouTube as the example in this case, and we were to take the long form video and the short form video and the audio that we've extrapolated and uploaded to YouTube as a podcast, you would then simply, once you've built out the flow in Manus, ask it to transcribe and write a blog. Now, why do you do that? The transcription is super important because actually uploading that directly into any of the content within YouTube will mean that it's able to be skimmed from an SEO perspective. So that's really, really key, and indeed GEO. The blog side of things is because it gives you extra collateral, extra type of content, pieces essentially, to be able to deploy to a new audience. So could be a mailer, could be on LinkedIn, could be on your website, right? But all of that has come out of the content that you've already produced. So what we've essentially done here, in really simple terms, and if we break it out as a live example as to what we're doing here, we are recording a 20-minute video. Okay, so that's one sitting, that's 20 minutes of my time, that's 20 minutes of Richard's time. And what we'll then do is we will put that, after it's been edited, so you get one long form piece of edit, you put that into Opus Clips, where you'll get 50 at least. And then what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to pull out audio times 1, because that's the duration of the actual video. And then what you'll also be able to do is pull a blog /transcript. So what we've done within a 20-minute time frame is we've pulled one piece of long form content out, 50 shorts that can be deployed across multiple channels, one podcast, one blog, and we have a GEO and SEO optimized transcript. And that's a 20-minute sitting, right? So it's all about thinking through what you're speaking to, what you're wanting to solve, the problems that you're wanting to overcome, the audience that you're wanting to talk to, finding the time, blocking the time, recording the content, and then using AI and platforms, Opus and Manus specifically, to be able to produce versions of that content, deploy versions of that content, and then watch it scale. This is totally organic. It's totally different to building performance creative, but from an organic perspective, this workflow works super well. 20 minutes equals 100 assets, give or take.
Appreciate you listening to the podcast. Hopefully you found it useful. For those that want to read up or learn more, head over to my LinkedIn page, Oliver Bruce Online, where you'll find a weekly newsletter called The Brucey Bonus, where we double click into more detail and give you more tips and tricks around how to scale your business. If you want to share this with friends, family, colleagues, business owners, people that are in your circle then might find it useful, I would be super appreciative. If I said at the beginning of the podcast, this does not grow on its own, this grows with you and we do it for you. So thank you so much for listening and catch you next time.
I mentioned it earlier, but I do think something that you guys might find super useful if you're running a business and managing multiple transactions across multiple platforms is InCard. It's a new financial platform for modern online businesses, giving you guys multi-currency accounts, connected banking, and smart spend management all in one place. You can open up an account in minutes, attach cards for expenses, and earn up to 2% cash back on everyday spend, like ads, SaaS, and travel. Check out InCard using the link in the description.